Hello everyone, Brad from Prodigal Overland here, and today what I have for you is an install video on Chief Products hidden winch mount. Now I have already completed that installation, so you will see a successful install today. I highly recommend that you print out Chief Products, print out and follow Chief Products directions they have. We do our best to follow them, but often we have to kind of tweak things to make things work. That's the case in today's video as well. If you've not subscribed to our videos, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So the first thing that the instructions tell you to do is go ahead and remove your lower front fascia. Okay, that's down here. As you can see, I've done that a while ago. So I did an install video a while back on, this is the lower front guard from Chief Products. So that's gone. I'll put a link for that up above if you haven't seen that one. But that step's done, and then we've got to come up here and remove this whole front bumper. So the instructions tell you to go ahead, and there's 2 bolts here, or 2 of the plastic fasteners, and then there's I think it's a 10mm bolt right up there that we've got to remove. So we're going to do that on both sides. It helps to kind of turn your tires to get them out of the way. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll come up top and I'll show you what needs to come out there. So we've got 2 plastic pins, fasteners here and on the other side that you have to kind of lift up and then pull them out. So I went ahead and removed those 2 plastic fasteners, and it was a 10mm bolt kind of up there in the wheel well. And then you go ahead and pull the plastic trim out. There's 3 plastic clips that you just kind of got to ease out. So I did that on both sides. Okay, so once you remove the trim on both sides, you can go ahead and you just pull out the fascia. What I did was kind of grab up under here. You want to be careful because these, I don't know if you can see that blue clip in there, and I did not successfully do it, but those clips slide in and out. The trim slides into that. So if you pull too hard, you can kind of pull it out like I did there. Honestly, I don't know if I did that the last time I pulled the front end off or if it just happened now, but you want to be careful of that. So you pull trim out on both sides. If you've got fog lamps on the bottom, you can disconnect your fog lights. You kind of get up under the Jeep, look up, and you can disconnect the fog lights on both sides too. So the directions have you reaching up under, before you take your front end off, reaching up under to, it says quarter turn on the fog lights. My fog lights are definitely a clip and not a quarter turn. So, I mean, as you can see, I still have it connected. You just got to be careful when you take it down. The other thing to note is if you have like the lane sense warnings, the proximity sensors up front, you have this clip here that you'll have to disconnect too. So there's really 2 clips on the passenger side that you'll need to take care of. Again, this is a 2018 Jeep Grand Cherokee. I'm not sure if the other models are any different, but here's the clip for my fog lights. Here's that sense, lane departure or proximity sensor up front. So I'm gonna go ahead and take care of those, but as you can see, I was able to kind of take the front end off without removing them. I think it's just easier to access once that front fascia is off, but just be careful as you're taking it off because there's not a lot of slack there. So as you can see, we got the front end off. I had taken the front end off before when I had to fix my bumper. So it was, you know, once you do something, it's easier the second time around. But anyway, front bumper's off, so let's keep moving. So after your front end is off, the next step is to disconnect your adaptive cruise control camera from the back, and then we're actually going to take that off. So I have the lower front guard there, so I'm going to remove that front guard plate first so I can have better access to the camera itself. So 2 bolts that hold up the camera, pulled them out, and then I undid the clip, and it looks like there's a plastic rivet here I got to pull out, and then the camera will be free. Step after that is to remove the foam pad here. There's 2 plastic clips, I think down low there and over here that need to come out. So that's the next step. So after you take out the foam bumper, Next step is to remove your tow hooks. So there's 2 bolts up front. We had them out here, and there's 2 bolts here, and then 1 in the back underneath that you gotta get to. I was able to get to them through the hole in the oil pan there. So we're at a point now where we are needing to take off the whole lower front guard to access everything, which isn't a big deal. So we're gonna take this off, and then we'll have a clean front to be able to install everything onto. We have the tow hooks out. The next step is to remove the mounts that the tow hooks were in. There's 2 bolts there that we gotta get out, and you'll do that on both sides. So if you're keeping track, we're on step 11. Step 11 is to remove this wiring bracket here, the loom. You're gonna take these 2 screws off and take that off. And then after that, we're gonna have to take the steel bumper off. So next step is to remove the steel bumper here. There's actually 6 bolts on this side, 4 on the other that come off. Okay, so we have all the bolts out of the steel bumper. Then you have to come up top and get the last 2 that are right here. And then at that point, you should be able to pull the bumper off. So once you get the steel bumper off, the next step is to get that bolt out there, and then there's a matching one on the other side right here, and we're gonna pull those out. Okay, so we got everything pulled off that we need to get pulled off. The next step is to start the installation. So we're gonna do that now. So what you're seeing here is the lower front guard bracket. Okay, this is kind of like a spacer plate. I think that's E in your pamphlet there. And then the chassis strengthening plate C. So C, E, WK2 bracket, and then finger tighten with 2 bolts. So what you do on the driver's side, we're gonna move over and do on the passenger side as well. So I'll do that next. So again, this is what I was just showing you. Strengthening plate, this is spacer, and that's the lower front guard. And they get stacked like this and put up under. So the next step then is I have the air suspension on this. So I got the air suspension kit on top of this, which is just this plate that kind of covers your air compressor. So you put that on and then just finger or tighten up these 2 nuts there. I installed the air suspension cover. That gets sandwiched between the chassis mount over here. So if you have the air suspension and you bought the kit, that goes first. Then the chassis mounting bracket on both sides. And you're just reinstalling the original hardware in the proper sections here. And then since I have the lower front guard, this bottom hole here, once I have everything tightened down, will be the other mounting bracket for your lower front guard. So this is step 24, was to install these bolts here into the chassis mounting, kind of to get ready for that centerpiece. So these are the washer I and the bolt F here, and then here. And again, that was step 24. And then after that, we're gonna install the center section. All right, so we're hit a jam. We were able to get 2 bolts, top and bottom, on both sides, but the very bottom bolt on both sides won't run in right. So what we're gonna do now, and we've tried everything, but here and here, it's just, they're just not going. So what we're gonna do is take the whole mount off, the chassis mount, and try to assemble this whole section on the ground and then put it in and see if that works. So we had a bit of a time getting this done. So like I said, we got all the bolts in place. The 2 bottom screws that hold the cradle weren't sitting right. We couldn't get them to line up. So in that process, you know, the threading probably got fouled up a little bit. So we had to pull everything off and actually had to retap one of the threading on one. We assembled the whole thing, and then once the cradle was in there, the chassis brackets, the works, and then we put it up and then put the chassis screws in. And so now it's up. Let me show you. We got everything on there. The cradle's in there. We actually, to get the last holes, because even after we had everything lined up, as far as this went, these 3 were in, and then these 2 were off. So we actually had to use a jack to jack the center chassis bracket up so that the last 2 would go in. So I don't know if that was, I don't know. I don't know if that was my Jeep. I don't know if things with my frame are off, but we had a time with this one, let me tell you. So once you have the center section in for the winch cradle, next you're going to grab the bonnets, and they get bolted behind. Actually, it slips in behind, and then there'll be another bolt that comes up in here. Okay, so your smallest, narrowest one goes here. Then you'll actually put the OEM ones that were here holding the steel bumper on, they'll go back, and then same on the other side. So there's the bonnets in place. You want this bend to be pointing out on both. Like so. And we are at the step where we can go through and tighten everything up. So we're gonna do that next. So welcome to day 2 of this project. Yesterday we stripped everything off the front end, removed the hardware we needed to remove, and then we installed the winch cradle and the chassis mount and got all the hardware installed. So now what we have to do is install the winch. There's a couple things we're gonna have to do with the winch. One of them being we're gonna have to clock the winch, which is when you rotate the clutch down so that we can access it from up under the bumper or the lower fascia. So we're gonna do that today, and then I have a couple extra kits that will connect. Got one kit that's gonna connect the lower front guard to the winch mount to kind of strengthen that up, and then we have a kit for the adaptive cruise control camera install, so we're gonna do that as well. So this is the winch I got. This is the Smitty built X2O 10,000 pound winch with a synthetic line. It comes with a wireless remote. This is kind of a middle of the road winch. I know lots of people love their Warren winches, but obviously you pay for that, and it was just a little bit out of my price range. So this was recommended by several different websites as a good budget winch, kind of middle of the road with good quality. The people that have been using them seemed, for the most part, happy with them. So that's what I went with. It's got I think a 5-year warranty on the mechanical, and I believe it was a 7-year on the electrical. So anyway, hopefully I won't need to use that warranty, but that's what I went with. So we're gonna work on installing this. One of the first things we want to do here, a couple things we need to do, but one of the first things we're going to do here is actually clock the clutch here, the clutch operation. So what that means is, because the clutch is up here to release the free spool, and because this will be tucked behind our bumper in that current position and we won't be able to access it, if we leave it like this, what we'll have to do is always kind of power out the clutch and power back in instead of being able to free spool it. But what we can do is clock the section, which just means rotating, I guess 180 degrees, so that the clutch portion is actually pointed down. So to do this, there's a bunch of Allen screws kind of in the side. We got to take them out, and then we should be able to just pull it back and rotate it so the clutch is in the down position. And then let me show you where we'll be able to access it from. So here is the mount, the cradle for the winch mount, and if our clutch is down on this side, we should theoretically be able to kind of come up from the bottom, turn that spool. And so all the Allen screws are out, they're over here. So I should be able just to kind of pull that assembly out, rotate it 100 degrees, and put it back in. And then put the screws back in. So that was not so bad. Like I said, took out all the screws, rotated it 180 degrees. So now the clutch, as you can see, is on the bottom, and I should be able to access it. And then stick them all back in. We got the winch installed. The next step is to put the lower front guard back on. I did an install video on that. I will link it for you up above so that you can watch that. But I'm going to put that back on, and then there's the adaptive cruise control kit and the lower front guard kit that's supposed to tie the lower front guard to the winch mount. So let me put the lower front guard on, and then we'll get to the other 2 kits. All right, so we have the winch in place. There's the winch. This is Jeff. Jeff can know what's going on without even, and you're so quiet on the videos. People don't have any sense of humor. They just think I'm being mean to you. All right, so we're putting the ACC camera back on. So here's the ACC kit plate. So that's the plate that comes with it.
Oh man, I broke this.
Yeah, I know. And then the original bolt. The original ACC camera backs up to that and installs like so.
Why do you keep looking over here?
So here is, on the top there is the bracket that comes with the ACC kit. The part I'm holding there is the original mount, and obviously that's the camera there. I think it looks like the plug should go on the bottom. If you got Chief Products lower front guard kit that goes, kind of ties the two together, this is that piece. Here's your camera. Your camera piece is going to kind of come flush like that. And then the two back bolts where the winch are, you're going to take those out, or if you didn't put them in, don't put them in yet. And then you're going to thread these up there. So let me do that and kind of show you what I mean. So what we have here is the lower front guard kit, this piece here. Behind that is the adaptive cruise control kit. Okay, this is the original cover here. Okay, I'm gonna swing around. There's the camera, and that's the view from the front. And that's it. So the last step is just to put the front bumper back on. All right, guys, so we got everything settled. That's the install. I hope you liked the video. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to us if you haven't. Coming up soon here, we got to test the winch, so look forward to that. Anyway, have a good night, and we'll see you later.